is ESBR Boxing. I'm riding solo today, reacting to what we've just kind of witnessed earlier this afternoon, or depending on whatever time you're watching on, with JUNTO Nakatani knocking out Vincent ASTROLABIO in the very first round of his latest WBC World Bantamweight title defense. However, we'll get into that in a minute. If you're new to the channel, or if you're a regular viewer at ESBR, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, help us grow and all of that. We've got you covered with plenty of reviews, previews, interviews with fighters, big fight breakdowns, you name it. We've got you covered, with almost daily content coming your way. So yeah, let's get into it. As I said at the top, JUNTO Nakatani now 28-0 with 21 stoppages after his round one knockout of Vincent Astrolabio in Japan. As I mentioned, that was the first defense of his WBC bantamweight title after winning it against Santiago last time out. Obviously, a former champion as well down at Superfly, and I believe was he a champion at flyweight as well, 3-weight world champion, I believe. But yeah, set first defense of his WBC strap at 118 pounds. And yeah, he looks sensational in doing so. I think we've all seen the finish up on Twitter or whatever. Southpaw stance of Nakatani, lands a left hand straight down the pipe, right into the solar plexus, out into the stomach of Astrolabio, and he was just on it, went to the canvas and unable to get up. So there's not really much more we can dissect there. So that's why I'm here to jump on and kind of maybe discuss what we could see JUNTO Nakatani do next in the next couple of fights, next year, the 18 months, 2 years, whatever. Let's be honest, some absolutely humongous fights out there for him if he wants them. And I believe he does. He doesn't look like the type of guy that shies away from a challenge. So the first one we're going to talk about, I think it's probably the biggest one that you can possibly talk about. Fellow Japanese fighter, arguably the biggest Japanese all Japan fight in Japanese boxing history. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on every Japanese fighter of the past century, but Naoya Inoue against JUNTO Nakatani, what a fight that would be. Obviously, bit of a weight difference at the minute in the sense that Inoue is up at a super bantamweight, meanwhile Nakatani's still hanging about at bantamweight. So there's that 4 pound difference, just one weight division. But yeah, we've already, that was, as I said, Nakatani's only the second fight at bantamweight. So whether or not he remains there or decides to go up or challenges at 122 pounds remains to be seen. Anyway, we've seen something similar. He's gone through the weights up at super bantam now, obviously undisputed. But talk of him maybe going up to featherweight and even as a super featherweight, or who even knows, lightweight in the future. That remains to be seen. But for now, fight between Naoya Inoue and JUNTO Nakatani. I mean, oh, the whole world would stop and watch that, wouldn't they? As I said, if that was in Japan, which I'm sure it would be, get the biggest arena, the biggest dome, whatever they have, and that would sell out in a heartbeat. You could do, I don't know what the biggest arena is in Japan, but could that be an outdoor fight in the summertime? Like, that's just absolutely massive. You could sell well over 50,000 tickets for that, I'm sure. Probably even closer to the six figures in Japan. Is it realistic? I think it is, unless they're good friends outside of boxing and stuff. Then maybe not. See that in boxing sometimes. Good friends in similar weight divisions not wanting to fight each other, which is understandable. But we're not too sure. If they're not. I mean, as I've mentioned for about 5 times already in the space of these 4 or 5 minutes, that's the biggest fight in Japanese boxing history. I'm gonna put my neck on the line and say, I think it's realistic. Whether it's next, I doubt it. Obviously you've got a new A fighting PJ Dahini next, and a fight he should come through, but you never know in boxing, I suppose. But yeah, Nakatani, if he's to move up to super bantamweight, and what better way to have your first fight of 122 pounds and fight for every single belt in the division, against a fellow countryman, against a fellow undefeated fighter, against a fellow fighter with heavy, heavy hands who just seems to be a vicious knockout artist. I'd be all for Inoue Nakatani. I love that fight. I can't sit here and say that I would back Nakatani to win it. I think that would maybe be that would be a bit silly. I think considering Inoue's arguably number one pound for pound in the world, definitely top three. I think most people have Inoue, Usyk, and Crawford in their top three. So yeah, I'd love to see that fight. Inoue Nakatani. I'm all for it. Don't think it will happen next, but I could see it happening down the line. I think that fight within 18 months is definitely realistic, and it's one that I think gun to my head right now. Inoue wins that fight via oh, via late stoppage, mid to late stoppage. But equally, it wouldn't surprise me if it went to points. Because Inoue would be wary of Nakatani's power coming back as well. Another fight a fighter who's down at Superfly now, only moved up from flyweight really. And again, another top 10 pound for pound fighter already, despite only being in his early to mid 20s. Jessie Rodriguez. Jessie Rodriguez against Junto Nakatani. I mean, come on. It's just a fight that we have to see. And like you look at Bam and you think the people he's already beaten, he's not gonna say no to that fight. Similarly, I don't think Nakatani would as well. Two fighting men, and yeah, Bam. I haven't seen him just get off the deck, I suppose, but run through Juan Francisco Estrada last time out. Before that, first man to beat Sonny Edwards. But before that, he beat Rung Visai. Yeah, he's already got a resume that is better than most in the lighter weight divisions. Obviously, I mentioned world champion at flyweight, now super flyweight as well. Whether or not he wants to become undisputed at super fly, or if he wants to just maybe move up those another 3 pounds from 115 up to 118, he could that's a realistic fight. If Nakatani's hanging around at bantamweight and Bam's moving up, why not do that fight next? But they don't need to sell that. That sells itself. Bam's not going to want a couple of tune-up fights if he's moving up. He'd be jumping straight in at the deep end, and why not throw him in with Nakatani? It's a fight that is just unbelievable again, and two really powerful fighters as well. Similarly, what I said with the Inoue Nakatani potential fight, Bam Nakatani has got fireworks written all over it as well. Probably going to say that let's be honest, it'll probably be a knockout there at some stage or another. Again, don't want this to come across that I'm dissing Nakatani or anything, because I'm not, because he's a world class elite fighter. But just on what I've seen, I think it would take a brave man or brave person to back against Jessie Rodriguez right now. I think he's only going to get better. He's still very, very young, still lots to learn, but boy, oh boy, is he a future pound for pound star, I think. So yeah, I'd be backing Bam to win that one if it was to happen next. At bantamweight, again, I think Bam could maybe move through the weights up to maximum of featherweight. So not necessarily, it doesn't have to happen next. It could happen in the next 18 months, 2 years, whatever as well. So it's still time for that to happen, but it's a fight that I'm really keen to see. And last but not least, another one that I kind of want to talk about um, is the one, the only Roman Gonzales, better known as Chocolatito. Saw him recently come back there, levels above his opponent, kind of more of like a tune-up, getting the ring rust off. He's obviously fighting at bantamweight now as well, campaigning at bantamweight. That fight was. Why not do Nakatani Chocolatito next? Chocolatito is getting on in his career, late 30s now. Probably only going to want another couple of fights, and he'll probably want the biggest and best fights. So why not? He might want to try and cement his legacy for even further, going into the backyard, say, going to the Japan, maybe fighting Nakatani in his backyard, backing himself to knock him out, beat him on points, whatever. That would be a fight that I'm really keen on seeing next. I think that would show us a lot about Junto Nakatani as well. If he was to run through, Chocolatito would beat him, then he's a serious player, and then you might actually get a lot of people perhaps back in Nakatani to beat either Bam or Inoue as well. So yeah, guys, if you're watching this video, just let me know your thoughts. Drop in the comments below. How you see those? Well, those three fights, kind of I mentioned there, Bam, Inoue, and Chocolatito. How do you see those three fights playing out if they were to happen? What did you make of Junto Nakatani's performance? You can't really, I suppose, get too hung up on the one round because you didn't really see a lot, but it was a peach of a left hand down the middle, right into the stomach of Astrolabio. Who do you want to see him fight next? If it's not one of the people I've mentioned, do let us know in the comments. And as always, guys, please share the content, as I mentioned at the top as well, subscribe to the channel. We've got you covered for all of your boxing needs, whether it be previews for the big fights, reviews, interviews with all the fighters, going to the shows, and big fight breakdowns, you name it, we've got you covered, as well as kind of some fantasy fights videos and more content like that. So guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll be sure to speak to you all again soon. Cheers.